Hello and welcome, and in this video we'll start creating the weapon switching system. So first, the pre-setup that we need to do in the scene itself. Well, I have already created quite a few things, like as you'll see right now. I've made these. I'll actually just delete this simple source and the ground check. So the first thing you need to make is a simple empty game object that follows the right hand using our component. A player back slot which follows the spine, one of the spines, again using the component, and right up leg just like all the others. Now, right now, these slots that I've made here, as you will see the transforms, you can copy and slow down the video to get the correct positions. I've also got a model from Sketchfab knife sheath. Then I also created an object for this and gave it an icon like that. And the knife weapon is a simple prefab with the knife sheath and a few settings as you can see here. And there you can use this to create the hand-like targets that you created it now. And just apply it to the prefab, you'll get it done. So by that done, let's continue. And the next thing to do is improve the weapon system first. So we'll move to the scope effect manager, and I'm going to add a new parameter for this function with a bool for its current weapon. And then I will be using this instead, I guess. Yes, so change that. Now here we have an error, so just going to comment that out. Now from the weapon we need to get a new event which we will just create, and this function will accept it. So let's go to this weapon script first and add this new event, which takes in the player controller and the bool. Alright, so now we can use that there and there's no errors. Now to move back to the weapon base again, before we go back to the scope effect manager, I want to change this way to a bit different. Remove the initial rotation first. We just want to use the final rotation. And the sway rotation is having duplicate code, so I'm just going to make that inline by making the final rotation quaternion and doing it a bit more simply like this. So then we simply assign the sway rotations. That should work. Now this function right here, the set current weapon, well, I would call this as, well, the older way of doing it. We should just use one function, as these two functions are always called almost every time the same. So I'm going to make a new function, set weapon data, and just take in the controller and its current weapon. And then just assign the correct values and call the event with the values. So once that's done, we can move on to the next thing. Before we do that, just save and close. So adding a simple can shoot function, upgrading forward position annotation script, and removing the left-hand IK reference from the player controller. So for the shooting can shoot bool, we can make a simple function which will just returns false and true based if they can shoot or not. So this is basically based on our rules that we will be creating for the weapon switching system. At the moment, we have not done anything with that. So just put in can shoot now in there. For this function, I'm going to make a bool maintain offset. For this script, it's going to be updated with a bit of more improved system. So we'll have rotation offset variable private. In the start, we'll check if maintain offset and target is not equal to null. If so, then we want to assign the rotation offset correctly. If that's done, we need to just move to the update function. Here we will use our calc and apply function, which is another function. This function is public so that we can actually access it from other scripts. And we call another function from this one, which is set position annotation. And this one is simply just going to set the position annotation. And that's as simple as that. Pass in all the targets. And that should do it for us. Now I'm going to comment out these left-hand IK variables and self. Now let's move on to the main weapon switching encoding. Yes, so make sure to comment that out first. Let's make a new section for the weapon switching region. We'll add a space and just copy just like we've been doing previously. And actually would like to put the gun holder with these, and there should not be any more rifle holder and pistol holder because that is no longer needed. So header for weapon switching, and we'll have a weapon base, primary weapon, and 4 altogether, secondary and the side weapon, sidearm, and the melee weapon. So 4 weapons each controller will have at one time. Then a space, and we'll take in some slots. So the rifle slot, that's the first slot, and we need 4. So the second slot is number 2. But for this one is actually a pistol slot, and this is the melee slot. Then we need another space. I'm just gonna make them both 5 pixels. We need just one more slot for the gun holder and another slot, which is going to be later added, I guess, for the right hand. But just add the follow transform position rotation, the right hand follower. Make the space to 2, 2, so that it doesn't make too much space in between. Then we need the constraints weight modifier for the hands IK weight modifier, which is needed for both the hands to be turned off and on, so that our animation can take over. We need a string for the switcher holster string trigger name, and that's basically perform switcher holster, which I'll create a trigger for that. Then we have the weapon switch type name, which is again just a weapon switch type, which is going to be a float from the animator side. The upper body layer name, which is assigned to upper body. We'll need this to disable upper body's weights so that the person starts just doing the locomotion animations when he doesn't have a weapon at all in the hands. Now, instead of this old function we are using, firstly we want to assign the weapon directly with primary weapon, and we want to set the weapon data using the new function. I will have 3 ints. One is for the weapon switch type name hash, and the hash for all 3. And now I'm just going to assign them using the string to hash. There you go. And for this one as well. Alright. Now I think we can assign switch to rifle input delay. Switch to input, rifle input, wait for seconds is assigned to a new wait for seconds with well, a field that we have not defined yet. I'll just define that in a while. Another one for the pistol, and we can assign to a new wait for seconds using the pistol input delay. Now right up top here, I will make the weapon switching function call. So just to give it a call above all of this underneath aiming. And I will comment this code out because we don't have the left and IK anymore. I will also improve the aiming system, so we'll have a function for toggle aim state, and we'll simply call this one. Then if nothing is happening right now, no inputs being triggered, we want to check if you're sprinting and aiming and the aim state. Then if that is so, then we just want to set the aim state to normal. So now in this place, we need to toggle the aim state. We need to assign it to whatever it was not. So there you are, simple ternary operator will do that. Then we want to do a switch case on this aim state to see what it's now. If it is aiming, we want to invoke on aim enter, and otherwise we want to invoke on aim exit. Then we want to set the crosshair UI show, so just update it like if and paste using this aim state is equal to normal. Now we'll just add a can reload one, just like the can shoot one, and this will simply check that way, and we will simply say dot start reloading for the weapon. Now this will return again based on the clipping state and the is it interaction range, and again some anonymous variables which we don't define yet. We'll define that in a bit. After that, we're going to move to the is weapon clipped function, and if we are holstered, we just want to get out of here, or rather return false, because this is a bool, right? And instead of assigning this in detect weapon clip, because that is not called every frame, we don't want to assign the offset like that. Instead, we will change that in a bit. First of all, we want to fix the set spine constraints offset, so we want to assign the target offset to based on holster to 0 as well, and otherwise to target offset. Then the update constraints weights, so we need to update this function as well. So this is just like it was previously, and the IKLRP speed as well should be, I think, the same, but we'll just go for 20. But this is the extra thing, is performing switch or we are holstered. Then we want to set the weight like this. To the IK08, sorry, because this means that we need to, well, not have anything enabled. And similarly for the rotation constraints. And then in the other one, we just want to use the normal one, which is assigned to IK weight and rotation weight. So we'll make a simple bool floats for the target weight, which is the hands IK target weight. So we'll get all the weights and set to 0 using IK lerp speed. And then set the hands IK modifier weight. Now I can see there are 2 lines here, which means duplicate code, and we can easily make this simpler. So what I'm going to do is make a float for the hands IK weight first and assign it 0 by default. Now right here, if this is so, I'm going to assign this just like it was previously. I'm going to assign it to the hands IK weight. But this will not work because, well, we need to lerp it. I'll do that in a second. First, we need to put this in one place. We want to use the same rotation weights, just like we used previously. But now we want to use the, if we are performing and or holstered, then we want to set IK weight to 0, rotation weight to 0. And for the hands IK weight, well, that will also be assigned directly, because as you can see, this will give us some results we don't want. So we need to use lerp in the set weight function. But for the hands IK weight, we'll just change that to, well, assigning directly to the values, which is 1 and 0. So it's giving us 2 errors, but good, more errors because these bools don't exist. So we'll start be making these fields also. Before we do that, just want to update the update weapon transform function with offset positioning speed, which is set to 20. And then we check if we are not performing any switch and we're not holstered. Then we want to set the weapon transform local position to whatever from the vector3.lerp from, well, the actual position, and we'll lerp to the weapon position offset. So using the offset positioning speed, this way it will keep going in small steps to the offset positioning speed and eventually get to the edge of the target. So let's define these wait for seconds that we have been getting an error for a while. We'll change that to pistol and one for rifle. And I also want to add a space after the upper body layer name and define a float for the switch to rifle input delay. This is a 0.8 float delay, and the pistol is a bit lesser, which is 0.4 f. Then we have a space of 5, and we need to do a check. Well, actually not a check, it's an int for the holster pistol or knife ID. So in the blend tree, we're going to have a blend tree with about 8 animations. 8, no, 9 now. So let's just rename these to the correct names. Just one for holster rifle, one for holster pistol or knife ID. Switch between pistol or knife ID, switch between rifle ID. and switch from knife or pistol to, well, rifle ID. These are the IDs in the blend tree that we'll have. Switch from rifle to knife ID, and then for the switch from pistol to, sorry, from switch from rifle to pistol ID. And right here we can also make these okay. So there's something wrong. Let's make these unholster. One's unholstered pistol knife ID, and one's unholstered rifle ID. So with that long 9 variables for the IDs, we also need an int for the anim to play ID. This ID is going to be assigned to the actual animation we want to play. I mean the correct ID so that we can use it in the blend tree. Now we need 3 more bools. One is performing the switch, which is false. Switch input perform, which is false, and the halted, which is also false. And now we'll define the handle weapon switching function, which is not that complicated because it just has to check for the input and call the correct weapon switching function. So first of all, it has to also check for can perform switching. And if that's true, then we need to check for the input. Switch to rifle, which I will just show you in a while how I've done the inputs. So switch to rifle dot triggered will start a coroutine, try switch from current to rifle delay. Similarly, try switch from current to pistol delay for the pistol trigger. And now for the knife. If that's so, we want to try switch from current to knife directly, because this one is going to be requiring us to do 3 clicks on one button to get it to work. Anyway, for the next statement, we need to check if can perform holstering. Then we will simply check if we are getting the triggered on the holster input, and if so, we'll just try holster or unholster current weapon. So we'll define a function for the can perform switching and pass return based on is performing switching and is the weapon reloading. Then for the can perform holstering, we want to return based on switch input performed, and again based on the reloading. Alright, so the next thing is going to be done in the next video, so make sure to subscribe.